I want to inform the importance of compassion in healthcare administration. I'm pursuing a degree in healthcare administration to be essentially a hospital administrator. Compassion to the patients we serve goes a long way in the way of healing. One story that I want to start with, actually, that happened to me several years ago was about a World War II veteran. He was laid in a hospital ward. He was quite ill, knew that his days were not long on the earth, and this particular night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, a young nurse went in there and found out that he was declining pretty fast. The gentleman had 5 children, several grandchildren, but was laying there dying alone. No one had even visited him, come by just to see how he was or anything. The nurse that night felt real compelled to get her co-worker and tell her so they could go in there and be with this gentleman as he left this life. The two informed the house supervisor, and they went in there, one on each side, took one of his hands. Supervisor took his feet and just kind of sat there a minute, and then he looked at them and he smiled real big and he left this world. Now those healthcare workers went beyond their normal duties to take the time to be with that man that night. They didn't have to do that. The reason I say that is I want to say that medicine and physician care is not all that has healing powers. Compassion is a vital antidote in providing quality health care. I've worked in healthcare 22 years, physician offices, hospitals, long-term facilities, and I have seen firsthand that quality care comes in the form of compassion. So 3 points I'm going to give you. What is compassion? Does compassion make a difference in healthcare? And what does God say we are to do for compassion toward our brothers, our sisters? Number 1, what is compassion? It's one's desire to ease someone's suffering, sympathetic awareness to one another's feelings. Thomas Dahlberg, who is Vice President of National Initiative for Children's Health Care, wrote an article and stated compassion is vital for better outcomes. He calls it care delivery. If we say that something's holy, nobody wants to listen. If we say, hey, compassion helps blood pressure, anxiety, if it makes a difference for them, if we tell them that, they'll listen. So compassion is just that, showing care to one another. Point 2, compassion does have an impact in healthcare. On May 28th of this year, Shelley Boutot wrote an article on compassion in healthcare. She stated that good bedside manner is important in the treatment for patients, and the patients are more compliant to the doctors if the doctors have a better bedside manner. It makes a more positive encounter, and it often changes the brain's response to stress and allows for positive healing. Medical students often are quizzed on why they're going into the medical field, and they have been asked to define empathy in patient care. Shelley Boutot also reported that most answered with no problem. They knew what sympathy was, the empathy toward one another, and they knew what compassion was. But when asked after the study if she felt that these potential med students, doctors, would be good ones, she couldn't positively say. So that's a scary thought to think they're putting out health care providers that are not compassionate. God says that we are commissioned to care for one another. That brings us to point 3. In Genesis 6:6, the Lord was sorry that he had made man on earth. It grieved him to his heart. And in Galatians 6:2, he says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. How much more commissioned can we be than from the Word of God himself? Healthcare administrators need to be compassionate people. It's about more than reimbursement, more than committees, social gatherings. Look at patient health care in the facility as your family and be the head of the household as the administrator. Be that head of the household that keeps their house in order. If you're thinking of taking your loved one to a hospital, do you want to go to a facility where they're not treated compassionately? You got family members. If you think these family members are not being taken care of, makes you angry. Each patient that is seen in a hospital facility needs to be thought of just as your family. You're supposed to love them and treat them just as you would your family. Last story I want to share with you, summing up. Drew Ellis, a 20-year veteran in nursing and administration, tells us a story about Bob in the local hospital there in Little Rock, Arkansas. Bob did everything he could to make people feel better. He would hand them warm blankets. If people were lost, he would direct where they needed to go. Bob just did everything. Coffee. If he felt like someone needed a cup of coffee, it would make them feel better. That's what Bob did. A lot of the times the hospitals put out quality surveys, and on every quality survey that was answered, they kept getting the response. They may have low scores in the nursing care, but at the bottom of the survey they would say, we would come back and they would say why they came back because of Bob. Bob made a difference in their life. And all he had to do was offer them a cup of coffee or a blanket or show them where they needed to go. Drew learned through that just because nurses are often paid and doctors and administrators, that doesn't mean they're giving good, compassionate care. Bob gave good care, and Bob was a volunteer. He didn't get paid for anything he did. In concluding, healthcare workers make a difference by holding one's hand as they're dying, or the volunteer that comes up and offers a warm shoulder, if he offers you a blanket or something to drink, or even gives you directions when you're lost. That's what compassion is. Compassion needs to start from the top and work its way down. A successful healthcare administrator will make a difference if he'll keep his house in order. Administration is more than watching your bottom line.